to The Backstory. The Backstory is a production of SKN Vibes, where the news team would sit and discuss and ventilate the story behind the stories which were published by SKN Vibes in the previous week. Your panelists for today are myself, Teresa McCall. On my immediate right, there is Jermaine Abel, and on my far right, Mr. Stanford Conway. Some of the topics that we will be discussing today that have been making the news over the past week or so, or week and a half, include crime and also one that has recently been resuscitated, the decriminalization of marijuana. We will begin with crime. Recently, the government, as well as the High Command of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, put together a crime reduction symposium. It was a very topical issue. It brought together more than 100 stakeholders, and they were tasked with coming up with solutions to the problem of crime which we're experiencing in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I know for a fact that members of the news team have some very good points to make on this issue. We will start with Jermaine Abel and find out what are his views on the symposium itself.
Thanks, Teresa. Well, everybody knows crime in St. Kitts and Nevis is basically the hot topic today. But the start of basically the crime symposium was a good initiative. However, one crime symposium is not good for me. It should be something that's continuous. But looking deeper into what was discussed at the crime symposium, it's not basically enough of or something that should be done one day. Though you may have stakeholders from the various sectors coming in and giving their point of view, plans that should be implemented and so forth. It is something that should be done on a consistent basis, probably once a week, twice a month, 3 times in a quarter. However, it is a good start, in my view. It's wanting for this to be here, but it's just a good initiative that, from my view, that the government has started, and it's something that they should engage on a consistent basis for me.
Okay, let me lay down some groundwork before we continue. At the crime symposium, Dr. Niels Chaitan, he indicated that crime, there are 12 main causes of crime, okay? And he said most, if not all of these, are hinged on disrespect. So if someone has disrespect for someone else, that normally leads to some form of crime. So what he did was, he outlined those, and then he told the participants to break off into groups, and these groups had the responsibility of coming up with strategies themselves. Dr. Chaitan was very specific. He said, I'm not going to devise a plan for you. You are going to have to do it yourself because you are on the ground. You are here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and so you know what you need and so on. So they had to do that themselves. No, I understand that you're saying it should be an ongoing process, but isn't it a good start, would you say?
It is a good start. However, you can't have a consultation, a meeting in February, and you come up with solutions, plans that you want to be implemented, let's say by March month end. What's going to happen April, May, June? Should crime continue? Are you going to be reviewing some of the plans that you have implemented, and what are the feedbacks you're getting from the public and the stakeholders? So that's what I'm saying. Monthly, quarterly, weekly, you need consistent consultations with the public, mothers, youths, to get a feedback from them how this is affecting children in the community, how this is affecting the youths, how is it affecting everybody economically. So having that, even though he may come up with a 12-point solution a 12-point plan in dealing, or his view of how crime should be fought. Doing it on a consistent basis, for me, should be a solution to grappling with the problem that we have currently in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thanks, Abel. Mr. Conway, your views?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Abel on the aspect of having regular consultation with the stakeholders. What I've come to realize that when there should have been amalgam, in the sense that those from Nevis, you have stakeholders in Nevis, and those on St. Kitts, they should have been there together. But I've come to realize after listening to what was said that following the strategies that were discussed among the various groups, their suggestions on, should I say, recommendations will now be classified under one umbrella, taken to Nevis, and there you will find a group in Nevis now will go through that and then put their endorsement or recommendations. Instead of having it that way, why wasn't it done in the first place in having both sides? So that, you know, we normally talk about, we tend to disagree to agree and what have you.
Right.
So if I would have put my point out here now as head of the group, I make my suggestions, my group would have said, okay, yes, I appreciate that. This is what we're going to work on. But then you would have found a member or two from Nevis may tend to disagree because they see it from a different perspective. They're looking at the landscape, so to speak. What is permissible in one country is not permissible in another. And they would have found areas within Nevis to say, okay, you made this suggestion, you want to work by that. I do not see it that way. And coming together, they would have a better way of putting over their strategies and being accepted. But as Abel rightly said, there should be consistency. It's not a one-off something. And it should not be stretched out in the sense that it happens in January and you have another till in June or what the case may be. Because what should happen between the first and second, the follow-up, so to speak, the first and second meeting, that time is where you will seek feedback so that the individuals will see it now and say, yes, this feedback is a very good one. I think we can include it in this strategy, this particular strategy.
Right. Another point that was brought up was made by former Minister of National Security, G.A. Dwyer Astafan. One of the things he told SKN Vibes in interview is that a critical component was missing from the crime reduction symposium. He said that particular group of individuals, as far as he is aware, which includes prisoners, those persons who have gone through the system, they were not present at the symposium, and he is of the view that they should have been, because it would have provided further insight, you know, instead of just the perspective of those who are over the system or who view the system from the outside, that they should have gathered information from those who are on the inside, who are under the umbrella of the system, so to speak. What are your views on that? We'll start with Abel.
In layman's terms, as Conway would say, you have to think like a thief in order to fight a thief.
Wow.
Right. I mean, if you have, if you're engaging stakeholders in dealing with a major problem like crime, yes, you may want to say you're bordering on going back into the prison, you know, you're engaging the prisoners, but it is only through engaging them that you can actually get the feedback from them as to why, what were the causes of their actions, what we can do, not only to assist them, but others in the communities, the youths that are coming out of school, and so forth. Also, we may have a few persons who may have traveled from overseas or were deported. They will tell you unemployment, no social activities for the community, as some of the challenges that they're faced with. So it is only through engaging these people, and I agree with the fact that they were not engaged as I don't want to say means of disrespect, that the consultation was not complete. Because you have to engage all facets or all sectors of the economy must be engaged when you're dealing specifically in a consultation on a topic like crime. Because let's say, for example, health. You can't have a consultation and not invite health, because they both of them are directly related.
I don't think it was maybe disrespect. I don't think so. It could really have been oversight, But really, I think they should have been included as well. Mr. Carter, what are your views on Astafan's comments?
I agree with him.
Right.
But you just said Abel machine must have been a mistake, something like that. And you're saying could be an oversight. Now, everything that one would be doing, especially when you think about nationhood, we're talking about involving every facet that you would like to participate in a discussion, such as the reduction with crimes symposium. I would like to say simply this. One of the professions in the world where you find that it is very, very, for wanting of a word, troublesome. I'm looking at two medical practitioners. I'm talking about the pediatrician, and I'm talking about the veterinarian. The animals can't talk. He or she now will have to find what is really wrong with the animal by making certain checks. They're trained in that way. So taking that and putting it into this symposium, whereby the stakeholders, yes, you have the private sector, you have this, the police, you have that, and what have you. Indeed, there should have been some amount of residents of Her Majesty's prison. Because when we look at saying we're going to invite people, you don't know who is a thief. We get white collar and other colors. When a man has been caught, a man who is of their society, he has been caught stealing, he now be labeled. You know what he says? This is the first time. No, we are looking for people who have been convicted. We are taking these people, you have individuals who may come from depressed communities. These are the people you must have there, because you don't know what is bothering them, what is the trouble, what have caused them to commit the crime, what situation they're going through, poverty, what is the case, unemployment. So if you have them, and they share their views, and we're talking about some may not be involved in crime, criminal activities, but their friends are, and they may have been luring them to get involved there too, like with gangs and so forth. So when you have these individuals speaking their minds and telling you what really affects them, you are in a better position to find solutions to the problem.
The newest leg of the Crime Reduction Symposium is going to be in a short while. So let us hope that while they're having that leg of it, that they would include individuals who are either in the system or have passed through the system, so that other aspects of this thing could be brought out.
As you're on that, I think they have this fellow Nevis who was incarcerated, and he's a poet. He writes a lot of poems and things. I cannot remember his name. But up to recently, he was in the news. He is willing, or he was willing at that time to go forward so that media operatives could have had him either on air and to write stories with his photograph being there. Is some guts or something like that? Whatever his name is, but he's from Nevis. He's over in Nevis. Why I'm saying that? You know, a lot of things are happening in the prison whereby we talk about remedial works are being done. We got many of them who are very, very intelligent and they are certified. So what I'm saying, you won't find that I, on the outside, who know that I'm involved in criminal activity, I'm not going to come forward. So you take those who are residents, who are willing to come and talk.
Those who are willing, yes.
Yeah. I have to agree with Conway, because doing interviews recently with the superintendent of prisons, Juni Han, you know, he indicated that they're basically doing a lot of remedial work. You know, they're beginning programs and so forth within the prison. A lot of those prisoners are now well educated, so listening to them, giving their views, airing their opinions, you can take from them what you need. They may say, okay, do what your draft your plans this direction and not that direction. So now you're better able to, because for example, I can ask the questions, were musicians, were movie directors, were these people who have direct influence on youths within our society, were they present at the symposium? I can name a few band members, the popular artists and so forth, were they present to give their views and so forth. So the whole crime symposium, though it's good, I have to agree with Astefan to an extent that they should have been invited.
Agreed. Continuing with the issue of crime, there was a particular incident which took place at Port Zante recently where first-class jewelry was broken into, according to police, sometime during the early morning hours. And according to the proprietor of the establishment, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of goods were stolen from first-class jewelry. Now, the perpetrator or the perpetrators gained access by smashing one of the window panes, and they entered and they stole what they had to steal. Now, the problem is crime affects individuals, families, but now also it might be affecting our tourism product, because this is not the only store that has been broken into over the past couple of weeks. We know of two others, Taiwan Tasty and Blue Waters, that have been broken into, and items and or cash have been stolen therefrom. Does anyone have any views on this, especially as it relates to potentially affecting the tourism product of St. Kitts and Nevis, of St. Kitts, sorry?
What I'm looking at, that last break-in, with this jewelry,
yes,
first class. It leaves me to wonder, what about the security? What security measures are in place?
The police indicated, if I may interject, that the security guard responded to noises in the area. And the press release that the police sent out also indicated that when the attending officers arrived to the scene, they found the security guard, quote unquote, under duress. So there is some measure of security there. But
some measure of security.
Right, but the question is if it is enough.
Not only enough. How did the police gather information about this robbery if the security guard was there? And then they responded and found him on the duress. What I mean by on the duress? I understand duress to mean that you would have restrained this person either physically or by threat. Was he found with his hands and feet? They bound him, with rope or whatever the case may be.
Mr. Conway, I'm guessing so as to not compromise the investigations. I'm guessing
No,
they did not. I don't know.
What I mean to say is that feed us with the information so that we can understand what really transpired, How was he found? You understand me?
Without compromising the investigation.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but speaking about security, I am wondering what about the CCTV?
Right.
You know, if they have it, and all these places that you say free were broken into on Port Santé, if those were captured on.
So if they have gathered evidence
Yes,
from
pass it on to the police
I
and
see.
let them work on it.
I see.
That's how I see it. And you remember that the government is offering these business entities, businessmen and women, the opportunity to purchase these security devices.
Duty free, right. Abel?
But for me, there's a broader picture that I would look at Port Santé. These incidents do not occur, in my opinion, before 12. Right. There's calls for many times for Port Santé to be fenced. And if you look at where the incidents have been occurring, it's easy access to persons on the street. The Harley Davidson store, which you didn't mention, we also understood was robbed. That is in a secluded area at the back of Port Santé.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy access. So even though security may be there, even though when we contact the UDC and the police, they were not giving much information in terms of what security measures for Port Santé. For me, I think that the port should be fenced. Then we can move to security from that perspective by having it fenced. Because easy access, a police officer can be, 3 police officers can be at the port. There's varying entrances and exits to the port.
But another point, though, is that in order to fence the area, it would take a bit of money, correct? However, would these business entities, would these proprietors, would they be willing to absorb the cost of that?
That should not be an if question, because
it shouldn't, but it is.
There was, in our newsroom, there were 5 reported break-ins on Port Santé.
Yes.
I'm sure before then there were a few more, but would you continue to have your business, whatever entry, whatever it is, continue to be vandalized? It's not if, but it's a question of how much, when should we start securing the location? You know, because it's one thing for these businesses to be a thing, but we can't continue, speaking from a business perspective, to continue to have our store vandalized. You're operating at a loss, basically.
Another issue that has been resuscitated or revived in the news, as, if I should put it that way, is the decriminalization of marijuana. It's on the tongues of politicians yet again, and there is much being said about whether or not it should be decriminalized. If I should indicate at this point, the Nevis Reformation Party is indicating that if it is to win the 2018 local elections in Nevis, they would make a push to decriminalize marijuana. However, Mr. Brantley, the Deputy Premier of Nevis at the moment, he is indicating that it is impossible. The Nevis Island administration via the Assembly cannot legally decriminalize marijuana. And again, we are seeing a press release that was sent by the NRP in response to what Brantley said, indicating that that is actually possible. Do we have any thoughts on that?
The question of marijuana use in St. Kitts and Nevis, Terry, is not about if, because we've seen many reports that persons have been benefiting economically from the use of marijuana. Though I'm not
medicinally.
Though I'm not going to say I support or I don't support it, but speaking from a layman's perspective, we need to find ways and means of getting around this. If legalizing it, as the NRP is willing to do, is going to take away from the young men and women being stained for life by being arrested for small quantities of marijuana, then that's probably the road we should go down. But we can't continue to, to have people, we're still talking about this in 2016, 2017, about the legalizing about it. I agree with what Joseph Parry would have said. We already have a young person, we already have a problem with our young people with that. It could even get worse when you take a young person and put that person in jail with hardened criminals. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're hardening them to become criminals. However, we also have to look at the flip side. Can we benefit economically from this? With what is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis and the region in terms of the tourism and the economic fall off and all of that.
Mr. Conway, any thoughts?
Well, looking at the benefits, I can't see much benefits coming.
Explain.
Benefits. I can't see that. Take, for example, I have listened to what was said. Even the Prime Minister had repeated it when the CARICOM heads of government had met with then President Barack Obama in Jamaica, whereby the topic came up about marijuana, in decriminalizing it and what have you. And when you look at it, to benefit from marijuana, we're talking now about exporting. We're talking about exportation. And it was said that President Obama made a statement that you don't have the space to plant in quantity as what can be planted in America. Who is going to purchase your marijuana? When you would find places like America can have it in abundance and at a reduced price. Think about it like when we had sugar, when sugar was king. And then beet came into play, and you find that in Brussels, in Europe, the sugar played down. And what happened eventually? We had to move away from sugar.
Yeah, but
so when you look at really marijuana.
But Conway, let's say, for example, I'm getting the feeling that you do not agree with the NRP's position here.
No. Don't get me wrong. What I am trying to bring out is how beneficial will it be financially to the country? Who will you export it to?
Okay, may I interject
right?
here? What if we decide to deal with it as a region? So instead of St. Kitts and Nevis fighting that battle, instead of Nevis or St. Kitts and Nevis deciding to decriminalize it, what if we decide to tackle this issue on a CARICOM level so that, it could be mass cultivated, mass produced? Do you think we are ready to go that route? Do you think that would
You
work?
gotta ask Trump. You gotta ask Trump. Let me tell you what. Will you find America is being known from everlong since I was a small boy. America is known as the world's police. Look at what America did when they attacked Grenada. You understand me? America has a big say in everything. They talk about democracy, and your country is not practicing democracy. They put sanctions against you and so on and so forth. Think about what they did to Cuba. Now you come in as a little body, a small group of people from the Caribbean, and you are talking about marijuana, and you want to export it. America has not fully decriminalized marijuana, it's only in certain states.
Right.
Obama said it.
Right.
And now you are going to do something that they don't like, and look at what Trump is doing, imposing.
But Mr. Conway, my thing is, I'm not for or against decriminalizing marijuana, okay? Because I have my views on either side. But if we are to think the way that you're thinking, we will not get anything done. We will forever be a small nation, a small region. We will not get anything done.
I agree with what you're saying.
So
but
what do we
I'm
do?
looking at with marijuana, it kind of leaves me wondering when a man is caught with what we call a joint or a spliff, and then he's been sentenced and all these big fines and what have you. Not only that, he or she being caught with that, you will find that they have, against their names, a conviction. Now, when they would have wanted to travel, as most people want to go to the United States of America, and they make their applications, what happens then? They check. They'll ask you, were you ever convicted, what the case may be. If you lie there, they have ways and means in finding out the truth, and when they find out, you can't get it. The same thing would happen with job applications. People see you were convicted, they don't want to give you, I'm talking about locally. So what happens when regionally now, when you make an application, the person have made a mistake early in life, but in adulthood, he or she may now say, hey, let me pick up on this now, and academically, the CXC and what have you, and they get those certificates. Now they want a job. It's advertised in the region. In some parts, let's say in St. Lucia, and they go to get this job, then they make the application. There was a conviction to the name. They won't get it. All in all, I am not for or against. I'm not for or against. But what I'm saying, we got to look at what the situation is, whereby if we want to make a profit out of it, we got to talk about exploitation, because you got to export it. Because if you have it here, how many people will buy it? What you will also do, what I can see happening there, is that the things that come out with gang influence and violence, where drugs are concerned, with marijuana, that would go away. Because,
will it?
Yeah, I see it, because I would be able to plant mine for my own uses.
But Mr. Conrad, there is a direct, and the police will tell you this each and every time. There's a direct link between drugs and crime, and maybe not necessarily the only link is not necessarily the fact that you plant yours and then you uproot mine and then we have a war because of that. It might not necessarily just be that particular link, but there are linkages between the two.
Why?
Will those linkages disappear if marijuana is decriminalized?
Yes.
You feel so?
Yes.
I have to agree with that.
Then, people, it is being grown for sale. Am I correct? People are selling marijuana. They want to make a living off of it. You grow yours, I grow mine. Who is going to buy it? Are we going to make the money that we feel that we're supposed to make from it?
We will make the money. But then I may be a marijuana user and I will buy from you. I no longer buy from you. I plant it in my yard.
So then you plant it for your own recreational use then?
Yeah, I plant it for myself. But now you would find what would have been happening in the past, because I know it's illegal to be smoking marijuana, and I come into you to push a woman or push a man, I'm going to hide and get my things done. But now I no longer have to hide. You the pusher man. You're going to compete with your other pushers, and they will see to it, look, the whole thing is dependent upon demand and supply.
Okay, just quickly on this topic. My recommendation would be give it a trial period, probably a month or two, see how it goes from there, and then probably you can work back. If you don't agree with it, the government doesn't agree with it, we do away with it. These are our findings. We don't like what we recorded. We appreciate what we've seen in the recommendations. We're going to give it some trial.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us, the news team of sknvibes.com, for the backstory. We invite you to email us at newsroom@sknvibes.com should you have any comments or if there are any issues that you would like us to ventilate. Thank you very much and have a good day.